Purple Heart Homes presents Putting the Pieces Back Together, a forum for veterans and the community to connect. Here are your hosts, veterans John Galena and Brad Borders.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, we were late coming in. We're
here
having technical
on time,
difficulty.
Here on time and coming into the show late. Good morning. It's great to be here with you this morning, 1st of March, and want to kick off the show. Special thanks to our sponsors, Welcome Home Vets, Lake Mountain Coffee, fellow friend, and veteran Dr. Grant Campbell. And in studio, live with us today, is Junior from Kooks Headers.
You go by Junior? You go by Junior?
I'm George Kook, Jr.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
That's right. Don't call me
Okay.
late for dinner.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for being here.
We also got Brandon, an Army veteran, here with us today.
18 Bravo type and 13 Fox.
Yeah, he
type.
started off as a 13 Fox. That's like most important.
He had to lay the
artillery all the
he
way.
had to lay the
King
base.
of battle, baby.
Of course. We're never going to live that down.
Not as long as I'm around.
I'm going to hang in on the 18 Bravo. So,
yeah. Hey, we got a special announcement today. We got something new here for the show going on.
Yeah, we're officially on Spotify, if you know what that is. So Spotify is a online audio thing that you can download music and listen to it and stream music and podcasts. So we're in podcast format now. So we have 2 followers on there, me and John. So kick that up for us. If you've got some time to waste, download that and listen to us on there. I don't know why anybody would want to listen to it again. Right.
Well, I don't know about listening to it again, but the really cool thing about it is that you can set it up to have an announcement,
right,
so that if you miss it in the mornings or on Saturday, because we re-air on Saturday, you can listen to it at your leisure and be able to catch up on.
You can, right? If you got nothing better to do, you have no productive things going on in your day, and want to spend some useless time listening to us, that's fine. So download us on Spotify. That's pretty awesome.
So a couple of quick announcements here. At 8:30, we will start with live callers. We changed our format a little bit, and so we've got somebody to be able to help answer the call here with us, and Parker, our faithful radio extraordinaire expert, is going to be
we have an
taking
awesome
callers.
team. Yeah, we have an awesome team. We have Parker's the executive director, and Isaiah is the more than capable engineer. Right?
I tell you what, we come in here.
All of them are above average.
Come in here 10 minutes before the show, throw a few new things on Isaiah, and somehow he just makes it happen.
Yeah, he
we
did.
Couldn't do it
yeah, there's like wires and all kinds of things being
something to do about being in the Air Force and just being smart.
That's right.
I think that's where it comes from.
That's right.
So at 8:30, first caller at 8:30 on 704-873-1400, we will do a free T-shirt giveaway.
Woo!
Again, that's 704-873-1400, and we will take that call at after 8:30 when we get back from our break.
Everybody is lining up to get these T-shirts. I mean,
I'll tell you what, it's a pretty good-looking T-shirt, and it's
very,
very soft and comfortable.
It is. It's extremely comfortable, and it's OD green, so there you go.
So give a quick shout-out to Tammy Burchett at Purple Heart Homes for being an amazing project manager, takes care of some really difficult projects, and is getting it done. Last year completed just over 50 projects by herself for veterans.
I think it was 55, and she has the patience of Job, and she's very kind, and she's not like real boisterous and loud, and she just gets work done every single day and helping veterans all over the country, and we're really proud to have her on our team.
Yeah, very cool. And so, Brad, with everything going on over across the ocean there in Ukraine and Europe. We got at least one of our listeners is over there. One of your buddies, Riley.
Yeah, Riley over in the UK, and then I've got a couple of friends over in other parts of Europe. Adam and Ray are taking care of soldiers over there today, and really proud of what they're doing, and just hoping and praying that when things devolve and into peace instead of conflict, and hoping that cooler heads prevail. It's a really serious situation, and so just ask our listeners to continue to pray for peace in the world, and for folks to stand down before there's more loss of life.
And so I saw a photo you had of a gentleman who was just trying to live a normal day of life over there in Ukraine, riding a bicycle.
Yeah,
and next to a tank. Was that one of your friends?
Yeah, no, one of my friends. I'd like to be his friend though, because that was pretty impressive. There's a photo circulating around the internet of a guy in Kiev that would not let tanks blocking the road interrupt his training, and he's out on his bike riding as if it was just a normal day, and there's a tank off in the distance, and he's climbing this hill up he's riding towards the tank. So pretty interesting.
It sounds like one of our fundraising mottos, completely stupid but not utterly pointless.
That's right. That's definitely one of our fundraising mottos. So
cool.
We're hoping and praying for that guy gets a lot more bicycle rides in. And he doesn't have to dodge artillery rounds.
So some interesting news today for this day in history. In 1642, the first U.S. city incorporated. It was Georgiana, Massachusetts, now known as York, Maine, and had just settled about 24 years prior, and they incorporated. Was a part of the Plymouth contract.
Awesome. Did not know that.
Yeah, so really kind of cool day in history.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we also have in 1941 the first FM radio station came online in Nashville, Tennessee, on this date. So that's something for our friends here at WSIC. In 1904 was the birthday of Glenn Miller. Do you know who Glenn Miller was? You ever heard of him?
Yeah, the Glenn Miller Band.
I'm impressed. Yeah. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
The big band era.
Yeah.
So from about 1938 to 1944 or 42, Glenn Miller was the most popular musician in the United States. They went all over the world. The guy was making, now check this out, his salary every week was about $20,000 to $25,000 a week for the music that he was playing all over America. And in 1942, at 38 years old, he gave all of that up and enlisted and joined he tried to join the Navy. They turned him down because he was too old. And then the Army said, yeah, come on, we'll take you. That's very familiar to me because I got turned down by the Navy when I tried to join at 38, and the Army let me in. But he performed music for soldiers all over Europe until December 15th, 1944. He was flying in a small plane across the English Channel, and they lost contact with it and went down, and he left behind a wife and he had two adopted kids. And so there's a bust of him over in England where he used to play. They've got a statue of him over where the camp used to be, and it's pretty remarkable guy.
So in 1912, a shout out to all of our airborne friends out there. The first parachute jump out of an airplane was by U.S. Army Captain Albert Berry. Interestingly enough, he was not wearing the parachute on his back, but it was in a can attached to the bottom of the plane, and he was sitting on a trapeze rod. And when he jumped out, he fell about 500 feet before the parachute actually opened. He only jumped from 1,500 feet out of a prop plane. So
straight to the hospital. I wonder if he knew feet and knees together. I wonder if they taught that.
I will say that the article I read did say that he landed safely.
Okay.
And so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Depends on your definition of safely.
Hitting like a rock.
Right, yes. Yeah, like a sack of potatoes. So.
But couldn't help but throw that one in there. Shout out to General Schwanek, one of our past guests. And if you missed that episode, you can listen to that on our Spotify channel. And if you go to Spotify, you can look us up just by putting in the title of the show, Putting the Pieces Back Together. Make sure you use capital letters, and that'll help pull up the right show.
And we might be coming to iTunes as well if we can work out some I guess copyright issues about a name or something. I don't know. Yeah. There's something going on with that.
Yeah, so we're working on that. So we got a joke to share today, Brad. I know you're concerned about the Russian hackers and maybe me poking fun at communism, but I thought this was a joke that was kind of in good nature to help lighten the mood for everything that's
I'm
going
sure
on
everybody's
around the world.
just sitting out there going, man, I can't wait for John to tell a joke. I mean, because you have a history of telling just amazing jokes. So I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. This is starts off, title of it's Capitalist. A schoolboy wrote in this weekly essay, "My cat just had 7 kittens. They're all communist." The following week, the boy wrote, "My cat's kittens are all capitalists." The teacher called him up and asked him to explain the sudden change, and he said, "Last week you said they were all communists." The boy nodded. "They were, but this week they all opened their eyes."
Do we have like a do we have like a trombone sound? Isaiah is going to bring that in next time, so we'll have the Debbie Downer sign. And I can look, man, and people are just dropping off Facebook as we speak. So that's awesome. So, fantastic.
So in 1962, JFK established the Peace Corps.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. And
that is pretty
need
cool.
A lot more of that.
We do. Actually, my stepbrother Dodson, D. Thompson, served in the Peace Corps in Nicaragua right when he got out of college for 2 years. And Peace Corps is a 2-year program that you can go into when you're young and go over and do humanitarian work in other countries. It was a great idea, and we definitely need more peace in the world, and we could use more of that for sure.
You know, for those that are just joining the show, Putting the Pieces Back Together is a show about how the community as a whole needs to be involved in helping soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines reintegrate back into society. And more often than not, you know, we think of it just as the veterans' responsibility to come home and to get a job and live out, you know, a safe, happy life and all that sort of thing. But really, it's about the community. It's about the community helping make sure that they're hiring veterans. It's about the community making sure that they're, you know, helping veterans with their housing needs and accessibility and things like that. And it's about the church being involved and so many others. And so today we're really excited to welcome George from Kooks Headers. And George's family's got a long line of military service, and we'll talk a little more about that, I'm sure. But with that being said, he also prides himself on the fact that their organization, their company, also hires veterans. And so Brandon's been with him a few months now, and one of their managers, and so we're excited for that. And George, thanks for doing your part to help make sure veterans are being reintegrated. And you know, we kind of laugh and joke about things and some of our injuries, but it's really serious, and we need more people in the community involved and making sure that our veterans are properly reintegrated. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for sponsoring.
Appreciate
the show.
you being here.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
And so,
Hey, well, tell us a little bit of what's the history of Kooks Headers. Tell us, give our listeners a little background on what your company does and where you came from, and maybe a little bit about your dad.
We the business started back in New York, Long Island, New York, in 1962, and it originally we used to do headers and also modifications for engine swaps and, you know, traction bars. So it was originally started like Kooks Engineering Services. So basically, you know, my father had a motto. He goes, "If you have the dime, we have the time." So he used to basically do anything he can be fabricated. That's what he basically used to do. But he found a knack to make horsepower with making headers and exhausts, and then he made a name for himself. So he originated back in New York, and then we ended up moving down to North Carolina in 2009. And so the business grew quite a bit. We had about 30 employees up in New York, and now we have close to 80 now. We have worldwide distribution up to 50 countries worldwide, and we have some. So we actually make headers and exhausts for high performance cars. Also the NASCAR truck team and ARCA teams. We also do stuff for Mazda USA, Roush Performance, Ford, and stuff like that. Some military contracts as well. But so it's a pretty interesting company because it evolved from headers to now it's a full service. And as my father started back as engineering at first, and we actually evolved back to an engineering company and do engineering and services.
So where can listeners find your headers at? I mean, is that
if you go on it's kooksheaders.com online, and you can find us there. We have.
And so I know one of the guys at the office, he's got an old Camaro. He told me he was looking for a pair of headers, and so there's a lot of headers that you guys make and just keep stock for generic sizes, right? For like the 350 Chevrolet. If our listeners have a 350 or a 305 or Ford 302 for Mustangs, you guys kind of keep some of those in stock, yes?
Yes, we have some old. So that would be depending on if it was a Gen 1 Camaro, Gen 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 6. These 16 variations of Camaros, So if he has a Camaro, if it's a standard stock engine would be a 350, small block, which is a standard port head. Then of course we also have the LS1 swap as well.
Yeah, and so just a lot of our military folks are kind of gearheads. They like the thrill, the high performance. They love getting into that. I know there's a lot of them out there that are drag car racers and all sorts of folks out there. Some of them are just more like me, kind of on the novice line. And I know I tell everybody I see one of the things I pride myself with my Dart is my Kooks headers. It's one of my favorite parts on the car. They stand out. They're beautiful. Branded really just like what I find most interesting is they're branded just like an Edelbrock or a Holly or anything else. The Kooks brand is right there on top of the headers. It's the first thing you see when you open the hood, and really a great looking product.
Is your car quiet when you start it up? Your Dart, is it quiet?
Well, my wife no longer lets me park it in the garage because when I crank it up, it rattles the windows and the pictures off the walls.
There's something about that. It's just the sound of horsepower that kind of gives you a little spring in your step and makes you feel good.
Yeah, one of my favorite actors growing up was Tim the Toolman Taylor and all his hot rods. And it's a great show, and there's nothing like the feel of that raw horsepower. And so yeah, that's right. And so your dad was in the service. Tell us a little bit about your dad.
He was in the service in 1950. I think it's 1958 to 1960. He was actually a cook in the Army. The name Cook's Headers actually came from Cookie, lend me a comb from a show back in the 1950s. But even though he was a cook, ironically, so the name Cook always stuck with him. They used to call him Cookie, and then Cook's Headers evolved. Yeah, and that's how we got the name. But so he's back. Just the prior after the Korean War is basically when he the precipice before Vietnam. He's right stuck in the middle of that. Right. He actually got an honorable discharge because they learned that he got paid for do combat jump. I think he called it jump pay. Mm-hmm. And he said when he heard that he can get paid every time he jumped so many times that he actually blew his cartilage out in his legs. Yeah. I was like, a little excessive. I wonder where I get the over excessively achiever from. Right. So he took it to the extreme. Yeah. But that alone, he did that, and also, he always supported vets. He always helped out everybody itself. It's kind of like I'm the same way with helping people out in general. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the first things I remember about your dad was meeting him at a chamber event, and where he was all about the community and wasn't out promoting his company or his brand or his service, but it was about helping take care of others in the community, and that was really encouraging to me and Dale as young vets returning back to Statesville and just trying to find our place in there. And he was one of the first ones to welcome us home, and we really appreciate that. And great man. And been a long-time supporters of Purple Heart Homes, both for projects and events, and we'll talk a little more about that and some of the stuff we got coming up.
Sounds great.
Really appreciate you and your family. And your father-in-law was also in the service, yes?
Yes, he was in 101st Airborne in the Army as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Screaming Eagles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So adventure must run in the family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Well, so you got a lot of veterans on your team at Kooks Headers, and you got Brandon here with you today. And Brandon, thanks for being on the show with us. And Brandon, can you tell us a little bit about your Army career and what you did? Where you're from and all that?
10 years in the service in the Army. I like to say it always starts out with a cool video. Right. Went in, scored very, very well on the ASVAB, and saw a cool video my buddy showed me and said, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Just a plug for artillery. You have to score high on the ASVAB for artillery, right?
True. So, a recruiter probably asked me about 5 times, hey, you want to do that? You want to do that? You don't have to. I'm like, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I did it. Went in as an FO.
What is an FO?
That is a forward observer. Yeah. Forward observer. So
you're really close to the impact zone.
A little bit.
Yeah, really close.
Yeah, we were taught danger close, and we're like, okay, cool. It's within this, and we really learned what danger close was, being in combat. But,
absolutely.
Did a tour and got to hang out with, a lot of the SF groups and cool guys. So, they inspired me. Came back, did selection, and I showed up to Fort Elgin, or Elgin Air Force Base, 7th Group, for about 3 days, and then was shipped down to Fort Hood to be SF Echelon for 3 Corps. So did 2 tours there, and I was medically retired. Did 10 years, and started in the business world. So, I had a Homeland Security degree, took advantage, of all the schooling while I was in. It was free. I recommend everybody do it.
Yeah, sure.
And had a Homeland Security degree, and just sat there and said, hey, it looks like I can only work for the government for the rest of my life. So it was about 2008. I went and got a business degree, and, 10 years out of the military, now I'm at Kooks Headers and Exhaust.
That's awesome.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
So the private sector, what's the biggest difference between private sector and public sector as far as day-to-day ops and work life goes?
It's really culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's different culture from being in the service than the civilian life, and but I think we are all we're all equipped to change that culture wherever we go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very contagious. As you guys know, it's very contagious. And once you instill that, you create that bond just like the military.
Yeah.
And it's unstoppable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
sky's the limit on what you can achieve.
Yeah, I think in my experience, the things that galvanized people together were hard times.
Yep.
Stress, right? And the stress of hard times. You go from what I like to talk about in our combat recovery courses that I teach. We talk about bad stress and good stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's bad stress that debilitates people, but then there's good stress, or a more clinical term is eustress, right? With and that's the kind of stress is that, like when you do bench press, right, or when you do a deadlift, that stress produces growth, right,
Yep.
as opposed to producing injury. And so many times when you're gathered together with a group of like-minded individuals, and you got a mission, and you got a task to complete, and it's top tier. If we don't do our job, people are going to get hurt or worse, and that tends to bring people together, and that's a really unique aspect to have, capability to have in bringing in that into the civilian world, and being on a team of folks that are trying to make a great product, and then trying to establish a great business reputation, and ultimately try to provide for opportunity for people to feed their families at the same time while being profitable. So that's pretty unique. I'm glad you're getting to experience that at Kooks. That's awesome.
Do you have any time later on to come down and speak to my employees about that? That speech you
Absolutely,
said,
yeah, man.
great.
I'll come down, man.
I like that tag. I like that whole motto.
I'll tell some stories, man.
Just
There's no doubt about that.
A little tag on here. We had General Chuck Schwanek on the show a few months back, and we talked about some of those things: mission, task, and purpose. And we talked about the culture and just what it's really like. And what I've experienced in knowing George is he's not a micromanager. And I think that goes a long way, to be able to have a veteran and be able to give them that mission, be able to give them that task, and give them the room to go out and figure it out, and to figure it out on their own. They might not get it 100% right. They might not, have it just the way that you want it, but you give them the room to be able to go execute, and that goes a long way in creating the right culture to be able to help people to be able to grow as individuals. And with that being said, I know that when the purpose is laid out clearly, that you want to have a superior product and you want to take care of people, the veterans they really want to step up to the plate, and they want to do a good job. And George, I think you would agree that that's a part of what helps set some of them apart. It's not they're just there just to get a paycheck. They want to genuinely do a good job.
Yeah, a lot of the managers at first, I don't think they know how to manage the military personnel, because I'm like, well, I'm like, because sometimes you don't give them direct orders or jobs, that they get a little ruffles a little bit. We call it a little misconstrued.
Yeah, they don't like the ambiguity.
They don't like it.
Yeah.
They don't like it, right? So I'm like, all right, there's a problem here. I'm like, what'd you tell them to do? Oh, I told them to do this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, you didn't give them direct order. You didn't give them a direct job. You told them to do 5 things. You didn't tell them which one you wanted first. I'm like, why don't you put them in the lanes, and you'd be amazed with it. And then sure enough, we started changing certain guys because sometimes the guys are giving us issues in certain areas and they seem like they're actually in trouble, giving us trouble. It really wasn't. It's really they wanted the accountability and take care of the situation. It's completely opposite as you would think.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, put them in charge. So we end up moving them around and having them be in charge of the areas, being the running the team leads in each area, and everything took off. I'm like, oh no, that's what we had to do. Just give them direction and let them go.
Yeah.
You don't have to helicopter them. You don't have to.
Well, let's do this. We're going to take a break. We got to pay for the show, right? We got to put some ads up, and so we're going to come back and we're going to expand on that. If you're watching on Facebook, we're going to stay live on there. You can ask some questions there. So we'll be back in 5. So thanks a lot. All right.
So we're still live.
We are still live on Facebook. Good morning, everybody, and feel free to type in a question if you like, and be here to answer it. So we've got George and Brandon here from Kooks Headers, and we're super excited to have them here. Hope everybody's doing well. I saw James Hamby's watching.
I'll tell you what, James is...
he's loyal, isn't he?
He is.
He's so loyal.
He's another... Fister, Forward Observer, and great soldier, and served with some SF units over in Iraq. Yeah,
he did.
Yeah,
he wants to know what's for supper tonight. So we on Tuesday nights, starting tonight, twice a year we do a 12-week combat recovery course for the local combat veterans, and so James, we're having Miss Kelly's homemade chicken noodle soup tonight. So that is. And I think we're having pumpkin squares for dessert, so should be good.
Another one of the folks on Facebook Live right now is Dave Childers, and Dave
will be there tonight.
Dave is an author. We had him on our show here a while back, and in the process, Dave wrote a book, God Sent the Dog.
Yeah,
great book. And Brad, we've been talking a little bit about some of the other books. You and I are both avid readers, and in the process, you've been reading a new book written by someone here at the studio.
Well, it's written by Will Jackson. So the book is, I'm going to hold this up so everybody can see it. It's called Looking Both Ways, and it was written by Michael Jackson, who works here at the radio station. Does a lot of the commercials and stuff that you hear on the radio here. His dad wrote this book, and it's about 2 guys from the Vietnam War coming from different perspectives from the war. One guy was completely opposed to warfare and combat, and the other guy kind of grew up a patriot. And it's the view of the Vietnam War. So I highly encourage you to take a look at this. And he starts the book out. It's really cool. He starts the book out with a lesson. Will starts the book out with a lesson they learned from his mom, to always look both ways before you cross the street, right? That's how he starts the book out. And he takes that principle, and when you look at any event in the world, it's really important to look at both sides of the story. And it's a really unique book, and so I think you'll all enjoy it. So you can find it on Amazon. Again, it's called Looking Both Ways, 2 Men Face War. And so check that out on Amazon, and I think you'll be really glad you did.
And a couple other plugs there for books you can pick up on Amazon. God Sent the Dog. You can pick that up on Amazon, and Dave is a very gracious and generous gentleman. He donates those proceeds to Purple Heart Homes to support veterans housing.
Yep.
And so you can check that out. Again, it's God Sent the Dog by David Childers, and you can pick that up on Amazon.
So the book's 620 some pages long, and when Dave first wrote it and brought me a copy over, I got a signed copy, so I feel like I'm privileged. But
do they have an audio book?
I don't know if they have an audio book on that yet. Dave, maybe that's something you can look at. It would be really cool if it was read by Dave.
That'd be cool. That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. All right, we're getting ready to go back live on the air. Here we go.
Welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together with John and Brad and our special guests today, George and Brandon from Kooks Headers.
We should have had Steppenwolf as our intro music with Get Your Motors Running this morning. So
that would have been a great
That would have
today.
been, yeah, and like some revving, riffs on the guitar.
We'll have to talk to our producer about that. Maybe he can start arranging custom music for when
that'd
we
be
come
good.
back from the
That'd be
break.
good. Yeah, just something. Yeah, that would be right.
We'll just add it to the list of
Yeah.
multiple jobs and things he's doing. Real quick, we're going to be taking live callers this second half of the show. You can call into the studio live, the WSIC News Studio here at 704-873-1400. First caller will win a free T-shirt.
Whoa.
And we'll be taking questions, whether they're from gearheads or whether they're from veterans.
Not just any T-shirt, an actual Putting the Pieces Back Together show T-shirt.
A really cool Putting the Pieces Back Together show T-shirt.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, we've been talking about what makes veterans good employees, and George has been jumping into that. And so one of the things that I know from my time in service and working, doing some work in the special operations world is the leadership training that happens, especially, as you go through SFAS, the selection course, and then the Q course. There is a different approach to leadership, Brandon, and maybe you could expand on some of the things that you learned as a Special Forces soldier about leadership and about adaptive thinking and that kind of thing.
A lot of it does carry over. It's just like you guys were explaining, the whole micromanagement, and kind of the extreme ownership mentality. We give clear direction, and that's one thing I think a lot of companies or organizations lack is real clear direction. Yeah. And a lot of them lack it because there is no true vision. In the military, we have a vision, we have a mission, and it is pretty laid out.
Yeah.
And they give us the tactics to lay it out.
Yeah.
And, you carrying that into the business world just empowers not only your employees, but not even in just that job's, company specific role, but, you prepare them for the future as well.
Yeah.
Whether they're still with you, hopefully, they're still with you, or, they're taking the next steps in their career.
Yeah.
You're empowering them with those skills of just clear vision and clear direction.
And
I'm going to ask you to hold for 1 second. We've got our first caller, and they have a question for Kooks.
Go ahead, caller. Who we got on the line?
Yes, this is Steve Edson. How are you, sir?
Hi, Steve. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good. Yes, my main question is in regard to your open house. Are you going to have that this year?
Yes,
the open house at Purple Heart Homes or at Kooks?
No, at Kooks.
Oh, yeah.
He's interested in the burnout contest.
Yes,
yes.
We're actually going to have this in this October, yes.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. And something about a T-shirt. You submit something about a T-shirt.
You just won, Steve. You just won.
You've put a smile on my face. We are so excited, wanting to see this burnout competition come back to Statesville again. And Kooks always puts on a great show, and so we're really excited. We were talking about that a little bit earlier.
So maybe there's people out there that don't know what a burnout competition is. So.
Yeah,
well, burnout is actually not, doesn't mean actually you physically burn out.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Not burning out the employees, right?
So when we do the burnout competition, have you ever been to one of our cruise-ins?
I've been to all of them.
Okay. So you firsthand witness. I mean, not for nothing though. I mean, every year I start off with the my pops the big dually van, but I really think I used to do the best burnout to open the show up. I just think. I'm not partial to it, but I gotta swear I always put the most smoke down, but I never get picked as a winner. I don't get it.
I was asking you yesterday at lunch, it's like, how do you know who won the burnout competition, right? And it's pretty simple. It's the most amount of smoke, right?
Well, people do, they do actually, the crowd will judge on it.
Yeah.
And then, but I tell you something, sometimes people will come with, colored tires. And
they run them till they blow out.
It really is pretty cool. It's pretty exhilarating, actually.
Steve, do you participate in the burnout competition, or are you just there to watch?
Nah, I just go to watch.
Right on, man.
Tires are too expensive.
I like to watch them dyno those cars, too, on the machine.
That's awesome, man.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Well, Steve, thanks for calling in. If you'll stand by on the line for just a second, Parker will get your information and we'll get you a T-shirt.
All right. Well, thank you, and I look forward to you guys having your open house and burnout contest.
It sounds great. Thanks for attending it.
Thank you, man.
See you
All
there.
right.
Bye now.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I love the idea of a burnout competition of smoking tires until they blow out. That's going to be something I'm looking
A little
forward to.
shout out to Lord Shue. He's been trying to politic Tim Mangum in our office and
to have one at Purple Heart
to have
Homes.
a burnout competition.
Yeah,
at
he was
Purple Heart
he was
Homes.
telling me something about erecting like a concrete barrier to put the front of a car on to stop it, right, and then creating the ability to burn out.
Something about legal and HR, always worried about the risk.
Yeah,
But,
right. Yeah,
we're gonna adapt and overcome that. I think we're just gonna take all the hot rods over to Kooks and
That's all.
participate in their competition.
I have plenty of space.
I like it.
Plenty of space.
Yeah.
Anytime.
So it's funny when you think about a tire, right? A tire, the material it's made out of, it's very resilient, right? And you can beat it with a hammer; it's always going to return back to shape. And that's one of the things that we try to do in the military is train folks with skills to have some resiliency in them. And Brandon, I know that you learned a lot about that through your time in Special Forces and your time in the artillery world. And speak to how resilience carries over into the business world.
Yeah. You know, it's being resilient in everything you face. You know, you're going to have challenges. You know, whether you're in the military, business world, or really any area of life. You know, one thing I always, being in group and everything is you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing. You cannot do it alone, but you also have to trust. You know, you have to trust your team.
Yeah.
So that goes on to building the foundation of the trust, building that mechanism to operate. And once you do, rely on your team.
Yeah.
You know, be open with them. You know, we have to get through this thing called life together.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what a lot of people, especially us men, it's, hey, you know what, I'm going to take charge. I got this, but no, you really don't.
Yeah.
Let's just face it.
Yeah, it's funny if you survey throughout the special operations community, if you survey what is the most desired trait amongst any operator, it's competency is certainly something that everybody wants. They want somebody who's good at their job, but trust is the most important thing because it doesn't matter how competent you are. If I can't trust you with my wife, or if I can't trust you with my money, it doesn't matter. So the low trust high performer is somebody that no one wants. And if you go to any team, you'd rather have a moderate performer but a high degree of trust in that person, and that creates an environment where the team can function together and they can rely on each other and build each other up from their strengths and in their weaknesses. But without trust, it doesn't work, and that happens in business. If you can't trust the people you work with, if you can't trust the people to your right and your left in a business sense, you will not have a successful business.
It's
That's
really
for sure.
interesting how often trust is an overlooked factor, but how easy it is to build trust.
Yeah.
When you think about it, it's really about being honest, having some integrity, being transparent, and being consistent.
Yeah.
It's not that you have to pay people more to develop trust.
Right.
You can't pay them enough to trust you. It's about being open and transparent and having integrity to do the right thing, even when they're not maybe watching. And so it's a really important factor. And that's something I think a lot of veterans struggle with when they come home from being in the service, whatever the branch is. There is a certain level of honesty and integrity that is almost required.
Yeah.
Not that it's always present, but when you're trusting to the man or woman to your left or right to be there when you need them, and then you suddenly come out to the civilian world and you're trying to find your place and you're trying to fit in, whether it's in your community with your neighbor or whether it's in your church or whether it's in your employment area, that you question, and you got to build that trust, and because you don't have that foundation that you spoke of, Brandon, that common bond, that you all went through the same exact training, that you all went through the same experience, whether at the same time or not. Everybody went through it, in some form or fashion. You have this understanding of the requirements, and so really great point there.
Hey, Brandon, when it comes to transition to civilian life, I know a lot of veterans have difficulty, right? Loss of focus and loss of a mission and loss of their teammates. And what's been most challenging for you since, in the last decade? What's been the most challenging thing for you in that transition?
It goes on to the trust factor.
Yeah.
Getting into a company and truly trusting the leadership. I learned real quick, real early on is my tone as well.
Right.
Now, wait a minute. Do you still knife hand?
What's that?
Do you knife hand people when you're managing?
I do. I don't point. I still do not point.
Sergeant
to this
Knife
day.
Hand. Yes.
Still don't point.
Right.
No, it's we're so black and white in the military.
Yep.
And real quick story, had a dream job, a job I dreamed about, family, friends, owned the company, and I kind of did a, I guess, unofficial but official interview in her kitchen. And, she sat there and, I thought I was well qualified for the job, and humbled myself enough. And she says, no, I'm not going to take you. I was like, wait, what? Excuse me?
Why not?
You're telling me that guy's more qualified than me? She says, yeah, you're too black and white. She goes, I need some gray. I need you to grow. Wow. And I'm like, wow, okay. Yeah. And it's crazy because it's stuck with me for 10 years.
Yeah.
This was very, very, actually, I might have still been in the military towards the end, out processing when I interviewed. And to this day, I credit her for that conversation.
Man, she's told you some hard truths.
She did. Yeah. She did. And I applaud her for being honest and cutthroat.
Yeah. So did that, in that transition over the last 10 years, did that help you to process into some of those, to move from that black and white world into a more gray world where you
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Gray is good. Us military guys, we struggle with gray.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit it.
Right.
I think one of the key components to critical thinking too is understanding multiple perspectives, right?
Yep.
And that's
Looking
really
both
kind of
ways.
where that comes in at, is really being able to step back and realize that maybe not in all cases is my perspective, going to be the best, and and being able to accept other people's, and that's where that gray, kind of comes in at, right? It's that,
and that's the problem that we have, across the world, right, with people so dug in on their own positions. They're not willing to evaluate different scenarios from different perspectives and apply critical thinking to situations. And so what you end up with is a society that's polarized, and battle lines are drawn, and I'm not willing to have a conversation with you because you have a certain sticker on your car or whatever, and that leads to breakdown in communication, breakdown of trust, and then the next thing you know, we're in a world of hurt. And I think as we grow and learn how to see things from other people's perspective, although we might, being cruel, and have no common ground with their perspective on things, at least we can try to appreciate who they are as people, to try to, and that's critical for the work environment, because you got all kinds of different people working at Kooks Headers, right? You got from all shapes and backgrounds. How many veterans do you have working there now, George? You got 10 veterans out of 80 employees, right? So you get 10% of your population are veterans. The other 70 have no understanding of what these 10 veterans went through. But so in order to blend those two groups of people together and create an environment where it's positive, it has to be mutual understanding, right, as people work together, right? I'm sure, right?
Well, we had one of my employees had an issue. I don't think I say his name at this point, but I think I spoke to you guys the other day about lunch on this whole thing, and he has some issues going on. I think he was just having a bad day,
right?
And he's super quiet, super polite, But he came unhinged, and he yelled. He almost got in with somebody. I'm glad he did, by the way. And he held his own, and I'm like, all right, you know, he's like, so had a problem, blah, blah, what do you want to do? I'm like, I'm not going to do anything. Like, what do you mean? I'm going to talk to him. I went to talk to him, and then he was like, I guess he was going to think of the opposite. Maybe we can let him go or whatever, because then it was just an issue. And I said, like, what happened? You know, what's going on? He's like, I have some issues going on, and I kind of talked to him a little bit, and I'm like, you know, you might just apologize for your actions, you know? He was like, okay. It was like, no problem. I found the easiest with those guys in general, because they're the only ones that are accountable and actually accept the responsibility. Like, I could do better. I can move on next. I'm like, well, that's easy. Then he apologized, and everybody's like, wow. I'm like, yeah, that's all you have to do.
Imagine that.
I'm like, that's all you have to do.
A little bit of humility. And
it's amazing.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Everybody has bad days. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The difference is he's not hanging on to it. He let it go.
It really goes back to that idea of culture and trust. And you said something early on about the notion of accountability and veterans really looking for that accountability. That goes hand in hand with the trust. That if I can trust you to tell me the hard things, and I can trust you to tell me where I'm failing, then I have the ability to change and be better myself. And therefore, I know that if you're holding me accountable, that you're going to allow me to give feedback, and we can be a better team. And I think that's one of the bonds that the military creates. It's that, you know, I can trust my battle buddy to be able to tell me the things that I'm failing in, so that he can help make me better, and he can accept me doing the same with him. And, you know, we kind of poke fun and joke and laugh and you know, whatnot. But at the same time, it really comes down to a relationship.
You know, also, I think it's very intriguing at times that you actually speak your mind and just be done with it. Almost speak like a man to man. Very rarely can you actually speak your like get down to granular conversation with somebody, you know, with employees without just being the boss. Because they look, I don't want to be a yes man, but at least you speak to somebody granular, and they'll give you the reflection back to you, like honesty. Yeah. Then, once you know where you stand, like you said, then you have a true bond. Yeah. You can get so much more work done if you know where you stand all the time. Yeah. A lot of times, if you can't get to that common ground, you're always idling, and you always surface. You always have a surface, relationship. There's never you never get deep into like a real bonding, workforce. So that's why I like the military.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting just as a whole, and how military personnel really kind of start wrapping into the work environment and into the work relationship, that it's not so easy to find that place with them. You know, I imagine it's probably taken you some time working with a number of veterans to feel that level of comfort with them different. That maybe it was not the same, and those first couple of veterans, it was a little different.
I would say that's true. Like, well, as I grow as an individual, and more, I guess I mature. You know, instead of acting like I'm 18, I think I'm like 20 now at this point. But once you go through the dance, you're like, they're actually very simple. Actually, it's very simple to deal with. Not the complete opposite way. Before, you think it's more complicated, but it's really an easy car to drive, so to speak. Like, because they're programmed. Yeah. And the ones that's just like Brandon was telling me as well. He goes, you know, if you have any issue, he goes, I can take care of that. He goes, why? He goes, I know how I speak the lingo. Yeah. Goes, what do you mean?
Throw the grenade. You know, it's funny. We used to always call it accountability. Hey, get it off. And in my church, they just came out and said, throw the grenade. And I'm like, okay, I like you. Yeah. All right, throw the grenade, you know?
Yeah. So, Brandon, if you had, we're drawing close to the end, but if you had a message for a veteran, somebody out there that's struggling, what would that message from you to them be? If you had one thing you wanted to say to them.
You know, humble yourself. Show humbleness. Want to learn. You know, we don't know everything as much as we think we do. Hey, we're hard charged. We're ready. Right. We know everything, right? We don't. You know, humble yourselves. Listen. You know, quick to listen, slow to talk. Yeah. And it'll go in your favor.
Yeah, be that lifelong learner.
Yeah, interesting you say that. One of the things I've shared with folks over the years is it's hard to go from being a 1%er to being normal. You know, you think about those that serve in the military, they're, you know, represent roughly 1% of our population, and going from being, you know, at the top Not everybody can qualify to be in the military. Not everybody can, pass the ASVAB with, over 100 points to be able to be in field artillery. Right?
Lord have mercy.
King of battle. Hey, so George, as we start to wrap here, you do something that's really special. It's a part of the community, and it's really near and dear to all of our hearts. And I just want to call you out on that and tell you thank you for the work you do. But can you tell us a little bit about the work you're doing with Special Olympics and children with disabilities, children and adults with disabilities, and some of your personal work that you do?
Yes. So we. I have the pleasure of training 10 athletes. Their ages range from 15 to 42 years old. They have autism, Downs, and some epilepsy as well. It's really gratifying and growing. I mean, at first, when you start training the athletes, it's really a different, heightened awareness of your how do you actually communicate, because some of the athletes don't even speak to you or even eye contact.
And this is powerlifting, right?
And we're actually doing powerlifting.
Yeah,
bench, squat, and deadlift, which the most complex exercises I have the athletes doing, which it's quite gratifying to say the least. I mean, these athletes are so nice. I mean, they're just phenomenal people. I mean, they're like, give you hugs, and like parents have thanked me. I'm like, it's so gratifying, but just communicating them alone is a different level. It's a different. You watch their nuances and how they, work, and it makes you a better person in such a different way, and more caring and loving. It's really like almost a spiritual experience. It's really next level. It's really, and you don't look at them like, oh, look at this guy. Like before you look ignorant because you don't know the dance. You're like, oh, well, look at these kids. You don't know, right? But now you're in it. It's just no different than any of us. They're like just beings and great individuals, and you can learn a lot about how loving and non-judgmental they are. I mean, they're just a phenomenal experience for me.
That's really cool, and you have shared with me, over the years how your passion for this has grown. That just went from kind of observing and watching them in the gym to getting involved, and now you're a couple days a week that you're training with these kids.
Yeah, because I personally powerlift myself. I'm just like, I toot my own horn. At 53 years old, I squatted 550 pounds, and deadlifted 640 pounds, 208 pounds, and bench 360 pounds. But so I'm considered like the 1%er lifting, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to take my talent and put that towards people that really need the help.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why when I seen this gentleman training these athletes and having kind of like herding cats. I'm like, wow, do you need some help? And it went on every week. I'm like, you need help? He's like, yeah, I need some help. And then the next week, I'm like, anytime you need help, let me know. No, I really need some help. Then finally, he goes, all right, you ready? You're gonna go for the journey. Just have patience.
Yeah.
Well, once you get in, you're in.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we train him. We used to train him just 1 day a week for an hour. Now we train him 3 times a week for an hour. And now within 1 year, we're going with our 4th competition now.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And you got competitions coming up this year.
In Denver, yeah.
Yeah, in Denver, North
March
Carolina.
17th, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to.
And also Raleigh, too, is actually the Special Olympics Nationals.
Well, we look forward to hearing
Raleigh,
great things from that. So,
so it's a great culture you got going there at Kooks. We're thrilled to have you as a sponsor to the show here.
Yeah.
Thrilled to just have you as a partner and sponsor of Purple Heart Homes, the work we do with veterans. Thank you for the intentionality in hiring veterans and trusting them and creating the right relationship within your organization that they can be successful. And we got an event coming up with you guys. We got our Patriot Clay Shoot going to be happening in October down at Hyatt Farms. If our listeners would like to learn more about that, they can go to phhusa.org. Kooks is one of our premier sponsors for that event, and he came out and shot in last year's competition. Had some vets out there shooting, and understand maybe one of the teams even tried to buy a veteran. Tried to buy a veteran off your team to come shoot for their team. I mean, that was crazy. We never had that.
Maybe I rolled up and he's out there with the money in his hands.
Yeah. So we're live here at WSIC News Studios.
Everybody.
Thanks for listening to us today, putting the pieces back together.
Thanks for your service,
Brandon,
brother.
thanks for your service, and we just appreciate you all. Have a blessed day.
You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Galena and Brad Borders. Join us again next Tuesday at 8 a.m. and Saturday at 5 p.m. for Putting the Pieces Back Together on News Talk WSIC.